Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz, and now Maurice Jones Drew, that cowboy hat wearing, NFL networking. Maurice Jones Drew, former Jags great. All right, tell us the story about the cowboy hat. I mean, we got this picture of you with a cowboy hat on.
No, man. Listen, I had an XO, which is kind of like a video that you put around players, and the theme of the video was the Wild West. It was the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Los Angeles Rams, and Jalen Ramsey was the sheriff of the town in Los Angeles, and the Raiders and their bandits came in, and Devontae Adams had to go get after him. So the cowboy hat was props to go with the theme of what we were doing that day. That's all.
I like that. By the way, I like your producers at the NFL Network. That's a good segment. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you.
Yeah, give them a shout out. I always thought the Good Morning Football producers were really good, but it's not just them. So listen, Casey, you're fine, all right? But I'm just giving a shout out to Mojo so he can pass it along in my resume tape someday to the NFL Network.
I get you.
You know, we got to butter him up a little bit.
I'm with
man.
you. You do what you got to do to get in higher places.
Maybe
I'm just looking for a one good job.
Listen, this is
in the
how
last
it
2
works.
years.
Mojo gets there, then Brent gets there, then maybe Casey gets there someday.
Beautiful.
You know, it's just a train from
It's a pipeline,
Jacksonville.
baby.
Hey, the sheriff in this town is Trevor Lawrence, man. How about that?
You know, very watching that game and kind of seeing what was going on. I picked against the Jags. I personally thought Trevor Lawrence not practicing all week, being banged up after the performance we saw against Detroit. I thought the Jags were going to try to run the football against the Titans and do whatever they had to do, but Doug Peterson came out with a great game plan, and I loved that. I loved every bit of it. I was so excited that I was proved wrong because you saw they wanted to attack the middle of the field. They wanted to attack with Evan Ingram out wide against their linebackers, and they really got after him. They wanted to throw the football, as we saw. I don't know how many rushing yards ETN had, but it wasn't a lot. It's a tough defense to run against, and why bump your head against a wall when you could throw the ball all around them? And they did a great job at that.
They really did. And, 17 for 32 to answer your question for Travis Etienne. I mean, the running game is struggling, but they did face Baltimore was very good, and now Tennessee was good against the run, and their pass defense is their weakness. But what's happened here in Jacksonville, and this is where it's really turned, in my opinion, a bunch of different ways for Trevor. I think he has taken ownership of the team. He's like, guys, this is my team. I'm ready. Like, he's almost like, I'm ready to lead you. And this is on me, and I'm cool with it. And he's handled that before in college and in high school. So I think he is cool with it, but he had to play better and feel right to be able to say that. And I think that's what he's doing now. And here's the deal, Mojo. I like it when it's in his hands right now. I can't remember saying that about a quarterback when I want the ball in 16's hands, and it's almost okay if they're not running it. Now, in the long term, you got to be able to run it. But I want the ball in his hands. Like, he's hot the last month. He's been good. He's delivering. And I feel like good things are going to happen when he's tossing the rock.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And they're simplifying a lot of it for him with a lot of what we call coverage dictators, right? Or indicators, where you're putting your tight end out wide at number one. And if a corner's on him, or a linebacker or safety's on him, it's telling you if it's man-to-man or zone. And so he's being able to play fast, he's getting protection, and he's getting the ball out quick, and that's what you're looking for. You want to be able to give your quarterback answers, and we talked about this last year, right? They didn't have many guys that could give him answers. When you have multiple guys that have played the position at a high level or have coached the position at a high level, they know how to give you answers to any problem that you may face. And so you're seeing him have answers for some of these tough defenses. He's having answers. The receivers are getting open. 1 week it's Kirk. 1 week it's Zay Jones. 1 week it's Evan Ingram. 1 week it's Marvin Jones, right? Different guys are showing up, and it's hard to take those guys away. And as you look further into the future, it's like this is only going to get better. And so as long as he continues to grow and play like we talked about last week, I think the Jags, the sky's the limit. Now, I'm not going to go out there because we're right now the Jags are in the playoffs. And it's so funny because them and the Titans play the exact same teams, the next three teams. What is it, the Jets, Cowboys, and the Texans, right?
Well, the Jags play the Jets. The Titans play the Chargers. So that's the only difference.
Okay, the Chargers, that's the one.
Yep.
Right? But even with that being said, like, you have a chance to make this a AFC South game here in Week 18 to win it, to get a home playoff game.
It's amazing.
And so it's exciting times.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, the Jaguars are in the playoffs right now. What does that mean for a team? Because you know what was interesting is I think some guys understood that last week in Detroit, but other guys didn't get that. I think this week they got the message. They knew, okay, look, this really is the playoffs. Like, we have got to raise our intensity, our focus, our attention to detail. And I think they did. And that was really impressive to me that they responded to that butt whooping last week. I knew Doug would get them ready, Mojo. I didn't know how the team would respond. We don't know enough about them yet. But they really responded well, and it told me a lot. But now, do you think they maybe get some added motivation off that? Do they understand they even have to play better this week? Not just because it's the Cowboys, but because it's the middle of December. And like you said, this really is the playoffs right now.
Well, you want the biggest thing that this part, again, it's so funny of being out of the league and kind of seeing it and obviously being in there and playing in it. Right after Thanksgiving is when you have to start playing your best football. You have to be as consistent as possible. If you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, they're on a 5-game winning streak. Right? They get hot around November, and they start taking off. The San Francisco 49ers, they get hot, and they start taking off. They're on a 6-game winning streak. You want to get on these streaks where it's exciting to go to work, and you're excited to show up, right? And one of the things we talked about it a couple of weeks ago was the maturity of this team. Is another opportunity. It's another challenge for you, where who they beat before they played Detroit? The Baltimore.
Yeah.
You beat Baltimore, and then you lay down against Detroit. And understandably so, that I can see that. I can see it. I don't see it this week. Now, you did something that the Jags haven't done, I don't know how long, to go up in Tennessee and win in Tennessee. Now it's time for you to celebrate that and get back to work and get ready for a Cowboys team that just almost lost to the Houston Texans. So they're going to be fired up and ready to go as well. And they're a really good football team too. So you got to go out there and be able to battle. And this is what the playoffs are about. I remember in 2007, that's what it was for us. We had to go to Pittsburgh and win in Pittsburgh. Then we had to play an Oakland Raiders team that came into town. We had to beat them up. And then we had to go play another team. And next you know, you look up and we were like, oh, we're already locked into the playoffs. We're good to go. And it just so happened that we had to go back to Pittsburgh. But we were so excited to play each week, we didn't even notice the standings until Jack said it like in week 16, I think, that like, oh, we already locked up our spot after the game. And so that's what it's all about, is having that excitement to come to work every day and do the same things and be so detailed that a coach telling you your left foot being here, it needs to be a little bit tighter, 6 inches wider, or whatever. Those things have to interest you as you go forward.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. By the way, you mentioned 2013. You had 21 carries, 41 yards, and a score against Tennessee in that game. Chad Henne, 14-23 with 2 picks. Somehow you guys won this game. I'm trying to figure out how back in 2013. Cecil Shorts led the team with 2 catches for 42 yards.
Yeah, Josh Scobie was busy that day, it looks like.
How did you guys win this game? Scobie was 2 for 2, though. I mean, did you guys have a defensive touchdown in that game? Do you remember? I mean,
we did.
Will Blackman. That was Will Blackman's game. My bad.
In the game with a defensive touchdown. That's how we won.
Yeah. He had a huge day, actually. That's right. I saw the clips this weekend. I just totally forgot about it. But that was a wild game, and that was the last time this team has won. It's been that long. That was significant. I want to go back to something you just said a moment ago, though. You said if you get on a streak, it's fun coming to work. And I understand what you're saying. This is a long season. When you're out of it, Trevor even referred to it yesterday, you still play for pride. You're a professional, but it feels different, and it's not as fun. Now it is fun. Your ears are up on what Doug's saying. Your attention to detail might be a little bit more, but what is that like? Like, what's a fun locker room like in December when you know you're still in the mix and you're still playing for something? Are there a lot of smiles, or is it still very business-like, just with energy?
No, there's still a lot of smiles because you're excited. Like, guys are excited to go out and practice. You're in meetings and questions are being asked, and it's like, okay, this is what I need to do. When you're out of it, guys are just trying to get it over with, right? You're going to practice hard. You have pride. You're going to do those things. But it's like I said, it's like the little things. You're not communicating as much when you're out of it, right? When you're in this thing, it's just like week 1. It's just like OTAs. It's just like the beginning of training camp. It's just like the first preseason game when you're so amped up. And that's what you want to be. And the best part about it is being healthy and being able to do that in December, which the Jags are. And so you just got to keep playing. And this is the other thing. The team that you're competing with to get into this thing, they've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
They got a problem going on up there in Tennessee. They done fired their GM. They have a lot going on, right? If you're the Jags, just keep chugging away. Just keep getting better each week. Every practice, every meeting, every lift, find a way to push yourself to get you over that hump because you just never know. And that's the best part about where you are. Like, you just never know. You just want to get into the dance. You get into the dance, and like we saw a couple years ago, what was it? Was it 2016 or was it 17? The Jags beat Buffalo. Then they beat when they beat the Steelers, and then they went and played in New England?
Yeah, the 17.
Yeah.
Right, and remember how the Buffalo game was back and forth? A terrible game. But you end up winning a close one.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you go to Pittsburgh and you outgun the Pittsburgh Steelers, right, who had the killer bees. Big Ben, AB, they had everybody. And you guys are just, I mean, you outscored them, right? And then you get to the you just don't know. And so that's what makes it so fun, is that you just want to go out there and put your best foot forward, and guys are enjoying it, having a good time. You're trying to stay on your routine. Some of us are very superstitious like I used to be, which was weird, but I was the guy like, all right, what time did I go to sleep last Tuesday? Okay, I'm going to try to mimic that, right? Like, you just try to do whatever you can to keep it going, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff. Maurice Jones Drew with us here. Brent Friends, Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz here on ESPN 690. It is kind of fun right now to see it. Can the Jags keep doing this without running the football is a question. The two out of their last two wins, they've run the football for like a combined, I don't know, Casey, what is it, like 90 yards? They had 38, I think, in the Baltimore game and 60 overall here. And, I mean, it's an ugly 60 yards, really. It wasn't – that sounds more than it actually felt like.
We talked about it earlier. Their average would have been under 2 yards a carry if Agnew didn't run for 8 yards on one play.
And Trevor has a couple of runs in there, too. So how much do they have to get back to being able to do a little bit of that with ETN? Because, Mojo, I feel like ETN is one of their most dangerous players, but he's being neutralized, it seems, the last few weeks.
Well, it's not about – when you get to this point, it's about more volume than it is production. And it sounds crazy to say that, but it's true. If you're running the ball 17 times, that means that you have an opportunity, that you're doing stuff that is acquiring you per se. Let's just say, like, they ran the ball 17 times. That means the Titans have to try to defend the run, which opens up the pass. So you're not just getting, you're not just one-dimensional. You're still trying to be balanced. You're not getting the production, but you're still running the football. And as long as you're doing that in December, eventually it will break. And when it breaks, you'll be good to go. But right now, as teams are loading the box or teams are focusing on stopping the run, Trevor's having great days. And that's what you want. That's the complementary part of the offense. It's when they start stopping the run, you can be able to beat them in the air throwing the ball. And when they try to throw the ball, when they try to stop the pass, you can run the ball down their throats. And we've seen that in different examples throughout the season. So to me, I'm not too much concerned.
That's a really good point. That's why I like having you on, Maurice Jones Drew. 25 carries in the game. Now, a couple came late as they're trying to run the clock, but I get what you're saying. The fact that you're at least attempting to run means you're probably getting first downs. You've got the ball in your hands, and you have to at least keep the defense honest. So 25 rushes overall, 42 attempts passing. While it seems a little off balance, it's really not that far from balance. That's why I like having you on the show on Mondays. That was a good point.
Hey, that's what I'm here for,
Yeah, but I do feel like ETN, we're not seeing enough of him because he can be dangerous. I don't understand this, and this is something I've harped on for the last month, and they get paid the big bucks, and I think Doug's really good offensively, so there's got to be a variety of reasons why. I still think you could get it to him in the passing game and in space, and I just have not seen that with ETN. Didn't you expect them to do that with ETN more when he got drafted?
Well, I did. That was the purpose of him getting drafted in the offense with, Urban Meyer and what they were trying to do. But this is a different offense. And if you watch the Eagles and what they did, they rarely threw the ball out of the backfield to the back, right? Now, you'll find them there, and, yeah, there'll be some opportunities. But I think they use Christian Kirk in that avenue. Again, I'm going to say this, and I get it. There's reasons. You got a fifth-round pick for a guy that was undrafted or a fourth-round pick or whatever it might have been. But this is why you need James Robinson on your roster this time of the year, right? We talked about that right before they traded him. You need a guy that you can lean on, a bigger guy who can run downhill. You want to know why the Carolina Panthers are a scary football team right now? They have a big running back. I forget, he went to Tech. I forget his name now, but
Donta Foreman, right?
Foreman,
yeah. Donta Foreman, Donta Foreman is running the ball downhill, and then Chuba Hubbard comes in, then another guy comes in, and Foreman is the one that's taking all the hits and wearing the defense down. You're talking about a team that's about to be competing for a division title the same way the Jags are, and they have a back that's 235 pounds that's running downhill. And so it's always important to have those guys on your roster. The reason the Tennessee Titans have won the division so many times as of late is because they have a back that's 250 pounds that runs downhill. And by the way, who was the linebacker that laid the hit on Derrick Henry? My goodness.
That was Shaq Quarterman. Yeah. Local guy.
That's game. Like when you hit him like that and the ball fumbles and all those things, now your defense is like, oh, we can get him.
Yeah.
That was a
big hit.
Too. That was a big hit. It was a huge play in the game. It changed everything defensively, and you saw them tighten down as a defense right after that hit.
They did, yeah. It motivated them. You could tell. And that was a big moment. That sequence in the game can't be talked about enough, really, right? That's that bridge. That's that 8 minutes bridge of the half of 4 minutes and 4 minutes. And Tennessee was going in. They'd actually kicked the ball out of bounds, I think the Jags. Maybe that wasn't the case. They had to punt it away because it was 14-7. And so they're still going down the field. Looks like they're going to at least get a field goal. And they make that play, and then they go score, and they got the ball out of the third quarter. They drive for 7 minutes, and they score again. And really, after that, it was game over. It was like a 3-sequence moment for the Jags, all in their favor, and they end up getting it done. Hey, I got to ask you this, man. They waived Darrell Henderson.
Right.
I mean, I'm just going to tell you the story that we shared because we heard it on 2 different occasions. Like a couple of Sundays ago, he was apparently at a Cracker Barrel, and he was complaining that he doesn't like it in Jacksonville. He never took a snap. Like, how weird is that?
He was never even active.
Never active, never took a snap, and see you later, just like that. Because that was supposed to maybe replace James Robinson a bit, and we never even got to see it work.
It's, it's one of those things where this new generation, everyone feels like they have to have a voice, and you need to like everywhere you are. And, you're coming. He kind of did the same thing I did out of college. I came from L.A. and went to Jacksonville. It's not that you don't know. It's completely opposite of what you're used to. And he came from Memphis, right? And so you may not like Jacksonville, but that has nothing to do with what you're doing. You have to try to grow to love things. And, it's his loss, right? Now he doesn't have a job.
Yeah, it's weird. But he wasn't weird. There's not stories coming out of L.A. I don't think, or maybe we just missed them. But that kind of came out of nowhere. It feels like.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the league is different than when I was there. It's one of those deals, but hopefully he learns his lesson, right? Because you definitely don't want to be without a job, right? And it's a privilege to play in the National Football League, and a lot of these guys don't really understand that.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where he lands and if he does in the next couple of days or not. But that was definitely an odd circumstance. Hey, Evan Ingram, 11 catches, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is a guy that gambled on himself. When you have a game like that, somebody said this on Twitter, and I thought it was pretty good. How much value do you think he earned yesterday alone? It's probably worth a couple $1 million in that game. Somebody's going to buy the stock potentially in free agency, maybe even the Jags, on that game alone because that's what he can do, right?
Well, that's what you thought you were going to get when you got him in free agency, right? Like it was like this is what he can bring to you as a receiving threat, right? The National Football League, the Mercedes Lewises of the world, those guys it's more of the Evan Ingrams, right? You're not going to have as much of an inline blocker at tight end now. And so when you have a guy like Evan Ingram, you have to be able to put him in these situations. And I thought all year Doug has done that. He's given him opportunities in the red zone. He's given him opportunities in the field to be able to make plays, or like I said, to be able to help Trevor with his coverage, dictating where the coverage is going to be, right? So is it a linebacker or a safety over the top of him? Tells us man-to-man. If it's a corner, it's zone, you motion, all these different things. And it just so happened that he had a great matchup against Tennessee. And he exposed Tennessee. And so now you're going to see a lot of teams run these same type of things against Tennessee. Tennessee plays the Los Angeles Chargers, who have another receiving threat at tight end, and Gerald Everett, who is a big slot receiver coming out of college. So you're going to see more of these guys coming out, and if you can't defend them, they're going to be a problem. And so I love the way that Doug Peterson has utilized this offense. And it's not – and this other thing, they're putting guys all over the place, and they're running the same plays over and over and over again, which I love. And that's how you score points in the National Football League. You keep it simple for your offense, and you make the defense think, and that's what happens.
Yeah, I love that, actually. I mean, I don't notice it as much, but I love when from the same formation and the same play, I always say, like, if it worked, why don't you just keep going to it until they stop it, or you run something, just a little wrinkle off it. And I think that there's a subtlety there that's very good. And I think Doug talked about that from the first month. He's like, we got to be careful to show tendencies. And I think some of those things he's probably working off that was on tape, but now it looks a little different on tape. I love that part of offensive play calling, especially, and I'm sure you do it on the defensive side as well. How good are the Cowboys in your mind? Jags have shown that they can play with just about anybody. Yeah, they got walloped by Detroit, but it looks like a one-off. Even against Kansas City, they battled back. They played Philly tough. Dallas is dangerous, man. I mean, Dallas can put up a lot in a little bit of time, and if they get you on the turnover machine, it's over. But from your viewpoint, how good is Dallas, but at the same time, how beatable is Dallas?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the reason the Cowboys are really good, they have two runners, right? They're able to – they're going to force you to stop the run first, and then it's going to allow them to play action pass, get one-on-one on the outside with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. They have other guys that can make plays, Dalton Schultz. And their quarterback, for the most part, has been on point. Last week, Dak struggled a little bit, but their defense was able to keep him in it. And so they were playing complementary football. Now, they're not as explosive as the Philadelphia Eagles per se, but they have the ability to because Dak can run, right? You have Tony Pollard, who's very explosive, Zeke, who's kind of like their bigger back that runs downhill. He could still break 30-yarders, 40-yarders. And then you have CeeDee Lamb, who's still one of the better wide receivers in the National Football League. So they have a lot of weapons there, but you can beat them by simply stopping the run and affecting the quarterback with the pass rush. That's what Houston did. Houston got turnovers. I mean, Dak threw a couple picks, and they took advantage of them. Houston should have won that game, but they tried to get too cute on the goal line. They tried to be physical and run trick running plays instead of just going down and running downhill. And so defensively, I think you got to watch out for Micah Parsons. Obviously, you Trayvon Diggs, yes, but I don't know if they'll be able if they're going to run a lot of man. And again, this is where the coverage dictator comes in, right? Or the indicators. If you have who do you have on Evan Ingram? Who's going to cover Christian Kirk in the slot? If you put a running back out there and motion them back in, all those little things, they're going to tell you so much. And so can you have enough of those in your playbook so that Trevor can play fast? And if he plays fast, I mean, this offense is good enough to score with the best of them.
We know he's confident. By the way, Micah Parsons, very quiet Sunday against Houston, Casey. Just 5 tackles. That was it. Nothing tackles for loss or QB hits. No QB hits for Micah Parsons, Casey.
That's weird.
That's pretty weird.
It's weird, but, I mean, has he ever had 2 bad games in a row? Because that's the question now.
I know. I don't know how I feel about it, right? They have the bad game, get it out of their way, and still won? Or is this like a little funk they might go into? Because it works both ways, and we will see what happens. Listen, Ezekiel Elliott's having a nice year, I think, and Mojo, I've called him at times the most overrated player in the NFL.
Multiple times, actually.
I mean, and I just feel like he hasn't done anything the last couple of years, and I thought Pollard was a more dangerous back for them. But I got to give Zeke his props. I mean, they found a way to balance him and use him, and he's good. He's having a nice year.
Well, this is the thing. Oh, well, it sounds there's a report that just came out right now. The Cowboys are securing veteran wide receiver help after all, signing longtime Colts star T.Y. Hilton.
Huh.
So they're bringing somebody in to help them there, as it just breaks down live on Brent Friends.
Yeah, look at you breaking news.
Days, you know what I'm saying? But I believe this: when you have 2 backs, and it's very simple. When I was with Fred, it's tough to stop one if you have a really good back. But if you have 2 really good backs, you're in a world of trouble because now we're fresh, right? Mm-hmm. Like Fred will take a series or 2. I'll come in on third downs. Then I'll get a series, and he'll come in on third downs. And now you're dealing with 2 running backs that are fresh throughout the course of the season. You always want 2 to 3 backs that you can lean on just in case one gets hurt. And that's what happens with Zeke. Like, everyone wanted Zeke to go back to being that rookie Zeke. as you get older and you've taken these hits, you have to change your game. And so now he's the guy that they're going to lean on early in games, and he's going to wear teams down. And then Tony Paul is going to come in and outrun you and be quicker and do all these other things that Zeke used to do. And so it's no difference now. I don't know if Zeke will be back next year. I don't know how they're going to handle that. But right now that you have those two guys, you lean on them because that's going to be the reason you win in the playoffs.
It's a really good point.
The football in the playoffs. I mean, look at what San Francisco did. They're hoping to get Eli Mitchell back in the playoffs. Now they're hoping to get Deebo Samuel back. But they went and got Christian McCaffrey because they needed another guy to help him. They needed another guy to help their running game, so they had multiple guys fresh for the playoff run.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But it's interesting that the Cowboys keep needed receivers. It just doesn't feel like it. Between Schultz, the two backs, Lamb, Gallup, they were obviously making a run at OBJ. They're not going to do that anymore. They bring in T.Y. Hilton. They did have a big loss today with their starting right tackle, Terrence Steele, tore his ACL. He's out for the year. And their offensive line isn't like what it used to be. I mean, they had, for a stretch there, the Cowboys' offensive line, Casey, was like the best in the league.
Yeah, it was.
And it hasn't been that way.
No.
So that's a big blow.
The T.Y. Hilton thing's interesting, not necessarily for this week, but I guess what we heard about OBJ is true. Like, his physical and the knee, whatever, really must be messed up because they went a complete opposite direction that we didn't even know about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wonder what that means for OBJ even next year.
Hey, I want to get you, Maurice Jones Drew, before I wrap up with you, the Mojo on Mondays. The Detroit Lions, man, I said it this morning on Monday Morning Madness. I think you can make the case. I thought maybe a top 5 team. We went through all the teams. There might be like the 6th best team in the NFL right now, 7th best team in the NFL right now. I don't think anybody wants to play them.
Well, I would say this. I said this last night on our game day final show. After every Sunday, we kind of talk about all the games. Like I think Detroit's dangerous, but my host Chris Rose said, "Well, you got to be careful because they scored 37 points at home, and they score 18 points on the road. So, again, it's a part of the process of learning and turning your team around. You start to play well at home, then you got to be able to transition and really get that same stuff on the road. I don't know how we'll see it because they're about to go on the road, I think, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how good they are there. But the way they play football right now, their power running game, both their tackles are playing well. They're running the football, play action pass, defense is getting a little bit better. They're a physical football team, and not many people want to play physical football down the road. And that's why, again, I go back to it. That's why the Tennessee Titans have been so dominant in the AFC South for so long because they're such a physical football team. This is now catching up to them. But I mean, right now you got 2 runners in Detroit. You have 3 receivers now. You got a defense, a rookie that's getting sacks left and right on their defense. You got a quarterback that's playing really well. I mean, they have the makeup to go out there and make it happen. I just have to see them play well on the road, and then I can stamp them.
Who are you most concerned about from a playoff standpoint? I'm going to take the Jags out of this because even in the wild card, they're 2 back. They've got a chance, but there's a lot that has to happen there. But right now, the Dolphins are in the 6 hole, the Chargers are in the 7 hole, and the Jets and the Patriots are on the outside looking in. The Patriots obviously played tonight. Let's even assume they win. They'd be 7-6. So you'd have 3 teams at 7-6, Dolphins at 8-5. Who are you concerned about, limping down the stretch and maybe missing out on the postseason there?
I mean, there's a couple teams. I think the Patriots are one. I think Miami could be one too. They got to get back to Miami as quick as possible, right? They've been on the West Coast too long, and then I got to go see them in Buffalo on Saturday on a short week. You got to go up to Buffalo. That's going to be tough as well. They have to find a running game, and to have a coach that was kind of the head of the running game with the Niners to not be able to run the football is a little mind-boggling to me. But we'll see if they can get that back going. But to me, the Jets are the team that you're worried about because they have everything that you need, right? You have a nice running game. You have receivers. You have a really good defense. And then it's your quarterback play. At the end of the day, like if your quarterback play isn't good in the National Football League, you're not going to make it.
That is true.
You're not going to make it. And so they have everything. Josh Allen played one of I wouldn't say his worst game, but he didn't play his best game against the Jets. They held him to 150 yards throwing at 1 touchdown. He had a 1 rushing, it was an okay day. It wasn't a Josh Allen that they were used to, and you still lost by 11.
Yeah.
So they have to figure out their quarterback play down the stretch. If they can't figure that out, if Zach Wilson isn't the guy, You need to get rid of him and move on because Mike White is not going to be able to lead you to a championship.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they can even sneak in the playoffs. The playoff race is going to get really interesting down the stretch. By the way, so you'll be Saturday in Buffalo. The weather, I don't know if you've looked yet, started packing and how you're going to handle this, but it's 34 degrees. That's not bad until I tell you that there are snow showers and 17 to 20 mile an hour winds, which means the feel like's probably going to be in the teens.
Hey, listen, you know what they do to me? They know I'm a California guy playing in Florida. They have me going to Buffalo Saturday, and then I have to turn around and call the Monday night game with the Rams in Green Bay on Monday. Back to back, babe. Like, hey, but you know what? It is what it is. I'm not going to complain about it. I get to go see the Miami Dolphins, my fifth favorite team, play. I'm going to be excited about it. And hopefully, they can figure it out.
By the way, Green Bay, 25 degrees on Monday. Monday night, 26. You get an extra, extra degree in there.
Yes, low of 8, though, and it's a night game. So it's going to be cold.
Oh, yeah, that's actually terrible. That's like 12 degrees, by the way, with a wind of about 10 miles an hour. So right around 0 should be good. Vaseline up for those two. Were you a Vaseline guy when you played?
No, you know what? I have to say Drew Hampton, our equipment guy, and his staff did an awesome job. I know George Pelser is the equipment guy for the Jags now, which he was awesome when I was there as an assistant. They knew once it got under 50, I needed all of it. Hand warmer, ski mask. I need the fur in the helmet. I had like this little cold weather vest that was like thermal on the inside, tights with the same thing, cold socks. Give it all to me.
What's fur in the helmet?
If you watch any game, and it looks like it's cold, I was bundled up. I didn't play with nobody about that. I hate being cold.
Is fur in the helmet really a thing?
Yeah, because like the wind will whip into it. Like the fur goes into your ear. There's like a little to like stop like where the ear holes are in your ears. The ear holes.
Yeah.
Stops the wind from coming in. Because that hurt. Like you don't want your hands to be cold, your feet or your ears. If your ears are cold, it's over. And so I used to wear latex gloves, and under my gloves, I'd have a latex glove on, and then I'd put my gloves on top of that so my fingers would be warm. Hey, man, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
And then I'm guessing someone else on the team was warming up in like a sleeveless shirt.
Yeah,
at some
probably,
point.
Of course. That's what
I did that time in Chicago, and I got frostbite on my stomach, and I was like, yeah, never again.
I always love hearing you tough football players talk about how you hate the cold, man. And I don't blame you. I do too. I'm not calling you out for it. I'm just saying, like we've had Clay on before, and he says, "Oh, I hate it. Just absolutely hate it." He's from Chicago, and he hates it. So we'll see. I
don't think people who live in the cold actually want that. Like they would love to live in Florida if they could.
Yeah,
but that's just where they grew up, and no one wants to be in zero. No one likes zero. You have to be inside all day.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. Well, good luck on your travels. Stay warm, hot cocoa, tea, coffee, cider, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Thanks, man.
So real quick, before I go, I got to tell you guys this story, and you'll love it, and we'll end it with this. You ask Rasheen about this when he comes on. We played in Cleveland, like 2009. It was like January. It was super windy, cold. It was one of those games. It was snowing. The snow was coming in sideways. Terrible. And it might have been the day after New Year's. And they left the chicken broth out, and it froze. Oh, my. You want to talk about a mutiny. People were ready to fight to the death about that one.
So wait.
Because when they cold like that, you don't drink water. You get chicken broth, and that's what you use to warm you up.
I think I have heard that before. So that would be on the sideline, but they left it out, and it got frozen?
Yeah, they didn't bring it in when we came in after warm-ups, and it froze.
That's awesome.
Terrible.
I will ask Rasheen about it. All right. Stay warm, man. Always good talking to you. Thanks for taking the time.
All right. I'll see you guys later.